like my black dolls. You see them? Piece of macaroni. My name is Rhonda Anderson. Here, take a picture of this. So in 2019, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. So I told my friend, who is a doctor, and he had a fit. He screamed so loud. He said, "That's because you was raised out there with all that industry," you know. And I didn't even give it a second thought, you know. But this is what's happening with most of the residents, especially the women.
I am Theresa Landrum. I am a Southwest Detroit lifelong resident. I advocate for clean air, clean water, clean soil. Growing up as a child, it was the norm for us to have stinky air. It was the norm for us to see silver sparkles or metallic stuff on our windowsills on our cars, and in the winter the snow would be covered in black soot, so we wouldn't have any pure white snow because of where we were.
This whole community was segregated. 48217, River Ridge, and Ecorse were seriously segregated.
We didn't understand the very factories, the very places that we went to work to be able to put food on our table were the very industries that were having an impact on our health because of the pollution that they were putting out.
We had to live in areas that were the closest to the industries. You can literally look at DTE and look across the street at residential homes. We shut down DTE. That helps out some, but you still have major contributors to toxic pollution coming out of AK Steel, Marathon Oil, the Ford Ridge plant. It causes asthma, cardiovascular disease, upper respiratory illnesses.
Communities such as mine that mirror others across the nation, we're casualties of rich white folks' greed.
They're allowed to release toxins into the air because it's profitable, because it's what makes that industry run, okay? And those black people are sacrificed.
But whether it's housing, water, electricity, doesn't matter. Having lead dumped on you and your children, you are being targeted because of your race, your socioeconomics.
It's environmental racism.
But nobody was talking about how any of this impacted people, particularly those who were viewed as underserved, underrepresented, with a limited voice.
Oftentimes we don't have a voice. We're not invited into the room to make decisions for ourselves. We have other people that make decisions for us.
Most of the time I was like the only person in meetings against the governor, the mayor, you know, folks who were anti-environmental justice. Mm-hmm. But it didn't matter to me because it was a calling for me. And it was like, my people deserve to have somebody speaking for them. I'm Donele Wilkins. I got really, really motivated about doing something to help Black workers, especially be better protected on the job. We were most likely to be on the most dangerous, low-paying positions. And people like my stepfather died working for Chrysler. And so this amazing person by the name of Dr. Bunyan Bryant, one of the original organizers of the first People of Color Environmental Leadership Summit, he said, "Donele, you're the kind of person that need to be in this meeting." And we're negotiating the 17 principles for environmental justice. I actually was urged by our team to go to the mic and introduce principle number 8. And it's about workplace and environmental justice. But we were all charged with returning to your community and starting a movement. I was young enough and naive enough to think, okay, sure. So coordinated with some of the others that had showed up at that meeting and started hosting meetings in my home.
Donele Wilkins is the former executive director of Detroiters Working for Environmental Justice. She was the first environmental justice activist working in Detroit, and she needed an organizer. She asked me if I would, do some organizing for her, and that was my serious introduction into the environmental movement.
It was crazy. We walk in the door, open the door, and the telephone is ringing, and we both look at each other like, who knows we're here? And like the work was waiting on us. And we were blessed. We were truly blessed, you know, to be able, the fights were hard, they were tough, they were scary, but God had my back. And so, you know, it was like, you got to take this leap because our community needed it.
The very first, I call it a big case because it was.
Alice and I have a long, strong history.
Here in Detroit, we were literally being the dumping ground for all sorts of things. We fought the Detroit incinerator for years. After years, people started organizing before it was built, during the building, after it had been built, and then on and on and on until the community spoke, or they couldn't make enough money off of it.
It's all about money for them. And so when we talk about health, we're talking with passion, we're talking with hurt, we're talking about trauma. The companies are not listening.
Without someone putting their feet to the fire, they're going to do whatever is profitable. So that's why the activism is totally critical. It's necessary. Art was so incorporated in the protest. They made a mock incinerator, and as we were marching towards the incinerator, they showed the group tearing it down. So literally, now the incinerator has been torn down.
If that community has already started organizing itself, then that is an excellent place to start. One of the tools we used was town halls. We'd have experts come in, explain all of the issues of what chemicals cause what. What we see here is a broader picture when you start working with the community and talking to the community. The education goes both ways.
In order to have a viable plan, you have to involve the people that are impacted, the people that are experts, the people that live it every day.
When we fought for justice in the water struggle in 2014 during the bankruptcy, I went into homes and sat with the people and talked to them. They educated me about water backup. They educated me as an attorney or their advocate about how their children suffered. And so we, being the People's Water Board Coalition, the We the People organization, and other community grassroots organizations, we held summits where people came from all over the country to learn about water affordability, which is much different from water assistance. And so the education is not an elitist form of top-down education, but as Grace Lee Boggs used to say, the education comes from the grassroots, and we all catch hold of it.
You know, if you don't tell your story, somebody will create a story for you.
The people in those communities speak for themselves. They've learned that, and they carry their voices all the way to the state. They carry their voices to Washington, D.C.
Jacob, you remember me?
Yeah, I remember you, Jacob. What you doing up here? We did a letter writing campaign for young people from the ages of 6 to 18, why clean air is important. And Jacob was one of the students that wrote a letter, and the letters were hand-delivered to the United States EPA Director, Michael Regan, to show them that our kids understand.
They said things like, look, we want you to come back to our neighborhood so you can see.
And one of the things I often try to do is to put myself in another person's position, that being the enemy on the other side, to try to debunk or to take down some of their arguments. And I just talk to them. It's like, hey, John, you know, that does not make any sense. You know, you were talking about not paying a little extra to have someone else have water, when don't you see if there's a virus in your community? You live in our community, you live in Grosse Pointe. It's not too far from here to Grosse Pointe. Now, this was before COVID even happened. A injury to one could be an injury to all.
I think even now, in this moment, is a moment that we may never see again in terms of resources being made available and in terms of being able to invest those resources into real things that manifest into protection, equal protection.
Get in the fight and learn about how your environment is impacting you. Pollution has no boundaries. Pollution impacts everything.
So it can't be no, like, oh, but those are black babies. I'm not black. It's going to have to be you guys working all together for everybody.
I'm inspired by the future. One of the things that is important to me is that there is a appropriate transition of leadership, particularly for young people, and finding and creating opportunities for younger folks to onboard into the movement. That's always been my deal.
You got to get ready. You should have been ready yesterday. If you're not, that's because of us. That's a failure on our part. But you got to get ready.
At the agencies, whether you're working for the state, the local, or federal, if you happen to look like me, then you need to go in there with a mind of how can I influence whatever happens here in this agency.
There's nothing more fulfilling than to work with community. The law needs people who are willing to work with community and to do this type of environmental justice work. It doesn't have to be law. Whatever you're doing, sometimes something that goes viral is the t-shirt the community was wearing. So, there are many ways to contribute.